You are listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that explores the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. And I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. Today on Curious Cat, we have a very special guest, and I know her from TikTok videos, the Corvid Corner. And once I found one, I sat and watched and liked all of them, actually. And she is a really amazing woman. She has a love that rivals mine with crows, and I had to have her on to talk crows today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you. So right off the top, what got you, what captivated you about crows, and what age were you when they caught your attention and you fell in love with them?
It's actually a great question. It has not been a love at first sight at all. When I was young, I didn't really like birds that much. It's not that I just didn't connect with birds the same way I would connect with perhaps a cat or a dog or any other animal. I found my love for crows about 3 to 4 years ago, so not very long ago. During the pandemic, and it was a love that has basically grown over time alongside my knowledge as well. And now I'm completely obsessed, I must say.
Well, I didn't know we shared that in common because I grew up and I was afraid of birds. And I remember I was dating my husband at the time and we went to the zoo and we went into the aviary and I'd never had a panic attack before, but I had a panic attack being stuck in a room with all these birds darting around. And I don't know if it was Alfred Hitchcock, the birds that did it to me, but it was the same with me. I was terrified of them. So my husband likes to brag that he's the one that made me love birds, which is partially true. I love them on my own too. So that's pretty amazing, isn't that? So you said you've learned more and more about these amazing birds. I have been doing some deep dive for this episode as well, and they are marvelous creatures. So tell me what some of comes off the top of your head about crows that you'd like to let other people know about.
So what fascinates me about crows is their ability to form very complex relationships with their own conspecifics. So to me, that's very similar in some bits as well. It's very, very common, actually. Crows are very similar to humans. That's what I mean. In their bonds with their families, for example. The more I observe the murder of crows that I visit every day, the more I could identify these bonds and how the relationships flourished within those same social groups. To me, that was fascinating, and I could see quite a lot of parallels with our own lives in society. So crows are extremely loyal. They pair up for life. When they pair up with with a partner, they will fight for their partner alongside their partner. They will nest together. They will support each other all throughout their lives, and to me that is extremely beautiful, and it's quite interesting as well in terms of the union between those two, between that pair. You can actually identify how important it is actually to work together, to work for the same common goal, which obviously for crows, the common goal would be to nest and to raise a brood. But for us, it's also a lesson to kind of also, in a way, work together, because a relationship, for example, is not something that comes easily. It's something that you have to work on every day. And it's exactly the same for the
Exactly.
crows. The crows do
Mm-hmm.
exactly that. So they spend quite a lot of time preening each other and sharing quite a lot of moments together, bonding on a single every single day. So it's again a work in progress. This union that lasts a lifetime for them, it's a work in progress constantly, and I think that's quite beautiful as well. So that's one of the things that
I
I
do
love the
too.
most about them.
I love them too. I think it was when we moved to this place where the crows would swoop down, and I think the former owner of this house maybe like fed the crows, because there were two that just sat there looking at me through the kitchen window like, "You're not the lady," because they do recognize faces. They've
They
proven
do.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
But anyway, they knew I was the soft touch. So I started researching what to feed them. And we'll get into that because you're doing some really amazing things to feed them and giving them a rich diet in the wintertime as well. But I started giving them things, and then they didn't eat them. And this is no surprise to you, but they would fly off and they would go to different trees and they'd be delivering food to other crows, other nests. And
Amazing.
I was in love when I realized they were doing that. And I fell head over heels for them when I saw them doing that. And you'll just have to come to Seattle someday, because there's a group of University of Washington professors who have been studying crows for years. And after I found them and I started diving into it, there's a woman that lives on the islands here, and she's been feeding her crows consistently every day for years. And then they started bringing her little shiny gifts, like an "I like Ike" pin from way back when, a very old president in the United States, and other things. And so then I was like, maybe that's my goal, is to get a little gift, but it's not really. I just like to take care of them. But there's also a University of Washington extension campus up north, just right north of me. And what happened is news agencies were noticing that at a certain time before nightfall, it was right when the sun was setting, there would be swirls and swirls that would just grow of this crow group. And they would make their way to the UW-Bothell campus. And that's where they brood together. So do you know why they brood together? Is it a safety thing? Is it
Yes. Yes. So you tend to see a lot more of that in the winter as well. There's all sorts of
yeah.
reasons why they gather together. The main reason is safety in numbers, obviously, because if they are
Yeah.
all together, they can protect each other a lot better.
Yeah.
50,000 pairs of eyes is a lot better
Mm-hmm.
than just one or two. And that's why they do it. Another reason is also because there's some research, although it's not particularly on crows, but it's on
Mm-hmm.
corvids, that seems to
Yeah.
point out that they use these roosts as points of information to know where there is best resource, so that the ones that perhaps didn't do very well the previous day will then be able to take off from the roost the
Oh,
next morning to
oh wow.
find those sources of food. Very resourceful. So this piece of research is actually on ravens, and there's also a very old piece of
Mm-hmm.
research on jackdaws, but
Yeah.
it seems to be something that corvids in general do, although for crows is perhaps not so intense, or it might not be the
Mm-hmm.
main reason, but it's definitely a social point for them
Mm-hmm.
to also kind of keep warm
Yeah.
and socialize and even to pair up, because most of the pairings happen usually at the end of the winter time and as a result of
Oh,
these roosts as well. So there's all sorts of reasons going on. Again, it has to do with their social nature and how important
yeah.
these things are for them and for their survival. So roosts are really, really important for that. And you do
Oh,
tend to see bigger numbers in the winter time, but they still roost in the summer period, not
yeah.
so much late summer, as well. That's when they start. And then it can go all the way till mid-spring because there's a lot of them that are not going to be paired up at that point. So they will still kind of go back to the roosting place. They won't be nesting. It can take up to 4 years for them to actually start the nesting activities, to pair up and to start the nesting activities.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we've learned about how they're keeping each other warm and safe in the winter months, because this will come out in the winter months.
Yeah.
But how does their diet change? Tell people about your daily interaction with the crows, and then maybe talk about their diet and like things that we can do to support our feathered friends.
So crows are obviously opportunistic, which means that they will eat and feed from anything that's readily available. So if we are offering them free food, they will not usually say no. They will take advantage of that. It could take a little bit of time to get used to that source of food. If it's a new source of food, they are very scared when things are not particularly if they fall outside of their routine, they will be a little bit wary of it. But generally speaking, they will eat most of the same things that we eat. They are omnivore. So there's only a couple of things that they can't eat, but generally they will eat most of the things that we do eat, which means it makes things easier for anyone who wants to befriend them. It's not very complicated. One of the things that I find they love, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it seems to happen across the world. They love monkey nuts or peanuts in the shell, unsalted. Though that seems to be the treat of all the treats. They just love that regardless of where you are. And from the feedback that I've also gotten from a lot of people on TikTok, that also seems to be, a staple. So I always, that's how I started to befriend my own local crows with some peanuts. I would carry peanuts in my pocket. And then I would just as soon as I would see one, I would make sure that they saw me. Also placing something on the floor, that's enough for them to, because they're very curious, that's enough for them to come over and inspect, investigate what I was doing. Obviously, I would continue walking. I would not stay there. And then after a few meters down, I would just turn back and I would see them there investigating. And some of them would already kind of be trying the peanut as well, which was lovely. So that's how it started. So peanuts are really good. If anyone wants to start befriending the crows, I would say start with that. You can't go wrong with that. And then anything else that you have, like, for example, food scraps. There's a lot of people feeding them food scraps, and that's perfectly acceptable. And it also means that the food goes into them rather than into the bin, which is, I suppose, a good way.
It is.
And there's obviously... I've become a rehabber of Corvids about a year and a half ago now. I'm certified. And
So what does that involve?
So what I do is I look after corvids, or all corvids. So in the UK we have 8 species, and the most species I get are magpies, jackdaws, crows, obviously, rooks. And those are the 4 core main ones that I get. And then the other ones, I don't get them as much, but we also have jays. There's choughs as well, but not necessarily where I live. All of those are corvids. What I do is I look after them. I work with vets to make sure that they have the first initial care that they need, the emergency care, and then they pass them on to me. I work as a volunteer as well at a rescue, supporting the rescue as well. And since then, it's been probably one of the reasons as well why I've got so much into the research of crows, also because I'm an academic.
It's a natural.
It's comes,
natural.
Yeah, it comes with it. So it's hard to ignore the research strike that I have in me. But but the combination of all of these things meant that
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot about them, and in my practice as well of dealing with them, I've learned a lot. And linking this to the food and the diet,
Yeah.
what I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed is that during the winter time, they tend to eat a lot more fatty foods, and that those
Okay.
seem to be really good for them because they have to do quite a lot of flights, particularly
Yeah.
to and from the roosts.
Mm-hmm.
They have, to endure very bitter colds,
Yeah.
and fat gives quite a lot of energy to keep them warm. They need a lot of
Mm-hmm.
energy to keep themselves warm. So fat during the winter time seems to be a really preferred sort of thing. Peanuts have got fat as well.
Yeah.
So they are an all around the year good treat, but you can also give them sweat or anything that has a bit of fat content in that, and they will appreciate it. Then during the nesting season, their tastes shift a bit, and they
Really?
seem to focus a lot more on protein-based foods, particularly meaty foods.
Yeah.
They during the nesting season is also when they tend to raid nests because it's part of
Yeah.
life. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's nature.
Yeah.
So they will eat eggs, they will eat meat, and pretty much
Mm-hmm.
anything within those sources of energy and protein they will prefer. Those will be their preferred sources.
Oh, okay.
So we can offer them eggs and meat
Yeah.
during that time for them to sustain themselves, but also their babies, because they will probably be feeding their babies, and that's why they do this
Mm-hmm.
as well. So
Yeah, it's true. And I was thinking when you were talking about the crows and ravens, how they vocalize. I mean, it's amazing. We had this neighbor that would always be on her roof deck. She was a real estate agent, so her cell phone was always ringing. And then when she would not even be on the roof deck, they would be mimicking the sound of her phone ringing over and over. And we're just like, okay, that's really a cute trick, but it's kind of annoying. And so it was really funny. And so then we asked our neighbor to change her ringer. And then within a day or so, they were changing their vocalization of it, like on target, just perfect, spot on target.
they are
And
so
then
smart.
my husband's from Alaska, so they have the ravens there, and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
They can mimic other animals even, and kind of draw things to them to chow down on what they've got. So
That's
brilliant,
amazing.
brilliant
Yeah.
birds.
Most corvids will be able to mimic pretty much any sound that they may listen to. And I've got at least two individuals within my local murder that have very interesting calls. And I'm pretty sure these calls are some sort of mimicry from something that they've heard and picked up somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Ravens are particularly good at doing that, and there's a couple
Yeah.
of ravens I follow on TikTok, and they do talk, as in they mimic sounds to produce words, but still
Yeah.
it's unbelievable to actually see them doing it is amazing. And there's one crow that I also follow on TikTok that also talks, and it's just I love that. I just love
I
that.
do too.
They're very smart. It also
They're
means that they're
they're so
listening.
smart.
Oh,
They're totally listening. I actually think that's why some people are averse to them, is that, they've proven through research that they are listening to you and they're talking to each other about you. And so, if you're trying to hide some secrets, or you're like, I don't actually like birds, they're seeing through it and they're just going, that's a mean one. And then they're teaching their young those faces, memorize this face because this is a nice person or this isn't a nice person. I mean,
absolutely.
that's conscious thought. That's
That is,
it.
yeah.
They're
They are
remarkable.
they are very interested in us as humans because they live so close to us. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we are very dangerous to them, and they are aware of
Yeah.
that. So I suppose keeping their eyes on us and their ears on us,
Yeah.
in a way, makes us a little bit less dangerous and a little bit
Yeah.
more predictable, because they can identify our patterns, and that's how they find out
True.
what time we leave the house, or at least
Yeah.
mine do. They know
Yeah.
exactly what time I leave the house to get
Yeah.
their treats. And they know
Yeah.
around the same. I come down the street and they are already all coming together because one of them has seen me walking all the way down the street and obviously called the others. They
Yeah.
do pay attention and they can see long distances as well, and they can identify individuals so perfectly. In fact, the Maslow's research
Yeah.
on has been pivotal in stressing that, in highlighting that as well, that they identify people's faces and can recognize those faces for the good and for the bad. So if you are a
Yeah.
bad person to them, they will never forget it, and they will pass that
Yeah.
on to their broods. Absolutely. I think the scientists that use these masks to do
Yes.
this research
Mm-hmm.
were basically scolded for over 4 years as a result of, their involvement in the research project. So it's fascinating, and I also have people telling me all the time how they moved away, but when they do visit, very many years after they've left, the local crows will still recognize them if they have been feeding them.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so it's really interesting. Their memory is amazing.
It's incredible. Well, when you were saying they're very similar to us and to primates, that was the research I was reading too, is that their brain size, it's not about the brain size compared to like a primate. It's the brain size compared to the size of the animal. And
Yeah.
they are in the arena of a primate. They are very bright and they do remember. And they know when we go out of town, they see us going down the path with our suitcases into the Uber, and they know, okay, we're going to have to find another source of food for a few days because they're going on vacation. They really do know that. I was wondering though, because you started out with just a few birds and your peanuts, but now you have lots and lots of birds. I mean, really, you need to go on TikTok, listeners, and see it. It's just amazing.
It's the winter time. What that means is
Oh,
that usually I get the double or even sometimes the treble of the amount of birds that I usually get during the springtime
wow.
and the summer. I have
Yeah.
roughly 4 to 5 families that I feed. Those families are settled in the park area, which is a very large park. So each
Nice.
family will probably be within each corner, and then there's a couple more in the middle. But the interesting thing about that park is that it's not, the territories within that park are very specific, but at the same time, there's a neutral area where most of the youngsters tend to gather and the elderly don't really mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to happen towards the end of the summer as well. They all kind of gather together as if they were in a sort of a school for crows.
Yeah.
All the
That's what it
youngsters
seems
gather
like.
together, and then
Yeah.
there's 2 or 3 pairs of older crows just looking after them. And that's when usually I also tend to witness alarm calls quite often for very
Oh,
silly things like I don't know, a burst ball,
yeah.
or a glove or a bag, a black
Yeah.
plastic bag, for example, and that's
Really.
enough to trigger several alarm calls, and then they all take off for the trees. So there's a lot of interesting interactions happening in that park, and I think that's probably why I spend so much time just looking at those, making notes as well,
Mm-hmm.
and also
Yeah.
recording them, because some of the interactions are fascinating, and I have been able to post some of those on TikTok, thankfully. But there's
Have
so much
loved
more.
them. Oh, there is. Well, I hope you write a book. You're writing a book, aren't you,
Oh,
one day?
I'm not
Because,
so.
oh, I think you should keep those notes. I'm just telling you, you keep those notes and write a book. I would absolutely love to read it. And I know hundreds of thousands of people would, because what you're observing with them. And tell people, because with your videos, they've been with you through good times and hard times. And that's what I was just crying when they're there with you. So tell us about how these feathered friends have been there for you.
Yeah, it works both ways actually. So they have helped
Mm,
me through very difficult times. When I started to befriend the crows, I had just gone out, well, not gone out, but I was coming out of a very complicated mental health situation. And then
yeah,
obviously COVID came and
yeah,
lockdowns, and that
yeah.
didn't help. So I
No,
found quite a lot of comfort just going out
yeah.
for daily walks, and in those daily walks, striking these relationships with the crows, which happened like very naturally. And as you said, it started with just a pair of crows, and then it kind of
Hmm.
developed from there into what it is today. And today I have roughly 4 or 5 different families outside of the park in different territories that I visit as part of my walk. And then I have the murder of crows in the park.
Oh,
So basically, what this means is that I've befriended all of my local crows. They all know
yes.
who I am, regardless of where I'm going. I'll always have one or two looking over my shoulder, which is lovely.
That's
So,
so
in that
lovely.
sense, it's been really lovely because the fact that they are there makes me feel like I always have some company.
Yeah,
They also taught me a lot about resilience, about love and
yeah,
relationships, and how
yeah.
important it is for us to kind of stick together.
Hmm.
And I've been with them as well. They've, over the space of the three years and a half that I've been visiting the local murder, I have also witnessed 2 losses for them.
Oh,
So, and it's been very interesting as well to see how they react to a death of one of their
of,
own. So,
yeah.
and the 2 experiences that I had were completely different as well. But I was always very sensitive,
Yeah,
yeah, of the
yeah,
situation,
yeah,
and always made sure that whatever move I would make would not make them upset or angry with me.
yeah.
And it seemed to work. I suppose they kind of took me under their wing a little bit, I find. And so I think I would have to be very mean to them for them to completely cut me off.
No, they wouldn't. I don't think they'd ever cut you off. I had a friend reach out to me on Instagram, and they were saying that they observed that the crows, they had one of theirs had been hit or had died, and they had a little funeral. Like it was unmistakable that it was a funeral. They gathered around and their fallen soldier on the ground, and they, put them to rest, and then they flew off. And I got to witness them. They came out, people think it's a fiction story, but it's not. It's what happened to me because I was feeding them regularly. And then I had dropped the kids off at school, and my car had just pulled down the street, and they're just shrieking at me from the power lines. And I'm like, something's wrong. And then I saw this, and my heart just broke, and I started bawling. And I wanted to do it in the most respectful way possible, but they were
Yeah.
basically, it was in the middle of the road. They didn't want their friend to be hit or mangled more. And
Mhm.
so I took action, and they just watched me from the tree. And then when we had the moment and said some words, and I cried a lot, and then I could tell they were ready, and they flew off into the north. So I knew that they approved of it, but they are very deep feeling birds. They're
They really are. Yeah,
they really are.
they definitely
They're
are. I mean, the experiences I had are very similar to that one as well, where I was just walking through the park, and I had no reason to suspect anything would be unusual, or
yeah,
and then all of a sudden, as I walked towards a tree, and this was my first experience with a death of within the
mm,
murder.
yeah,
They started, scolding, shrieking, and so loud, all of them on the trees. And I didn't realize what it was. I continued
yeah. Me
walking,
either.
but I was like, what is going on? This is very
Hmm.
odd. I've never seen them do this before. And yeah, fair enough. As 2 minutes literally as I walked through the wood, through the path, there was one dead crow right
Oh,
there below the tree. And I will always remember this one because I was still very new at this crow
mm-hmm.
thing. So I didn't want to leave the crow there.
Yeah.
That park has a lot of dog walkers. Eventually,
Yeah.
one of the dogs could just pick up the crow and take off. I don't know. I just
I
didn't
don't
want to
know either.
leave the body there. But I also
Yeah.
knew that there would be consequences if I took the body
Yeah.
away without them without them going through the whole process, because what happens with
Right.
a crow funeral is actually the crows gather up together and they will assess what has led to the cause of the death of that friend. They want to
Really?
know what happened.
Wow.
And again, not too dissimilar from us, because when we lose
Yeah.
somebody, we want to know exactly why, what happened, how it happened,
Yes.
so that we can make note. And if it was tragic, we will
Yeah.
also learn from that so that we don't, go through the same, or so that we are not in a situation that is similar. And
Yeah.
for the crows, it's the same. They assess the situation and the circumstances and try to see what was, the leading cause of the death of that friend.
Yeah.
But they do have their rituals, and one of the things that I keep saying is, if they are still on the trees cawing and making noise, just give yourself some time. Don't remove the body. Just let them
Yeah.
do what they need to do, because when they are ready, they will all take off, and that's safe then
Yeah.
for you to take the crow and move away. Um, Only because the last thing you want is them associating the death of that crow to you.
No, with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that could also
Yeah.
happen if we
Right.
take them. And I was very naive on my first experience with this situation, and I did take the crow away with everyone watching and cawing. And as I moved away, everyone took off, but there was one on the tree that was like crying. I mean, sorry,
Oh,
this is
yeah, it
me
is
kind of
crying.
like, but the noise it made, it was
It's
just, I've never heard anything like that.
mm, yeah.
And I assumed it was probably the pair of that crow. I
Yeah. Oh, I bet
maybe
it
I don't know.
was. I
Um,
bet it was.
it made me feel so bad. I've learned the lesson, so now I want everybody to know the best way to do it is
Exactly.
definitely to leave it and let
Yeah.
everyone do what they need to do. And when they
In their
take off,
time.
just, remove the body at that time, because it's safer. Nobody's going to be watching. And that's exactly what happened with my second one. I arrived at the park, they start flying over and cawing, and I did see a dead crow, and that was a predator
Oh,
that had caught that crow.
oh no.
So I waited, and then eventually they did move away from there, but not completely, because I feed them. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So they were
Yeah.
still expecting their treats at the end of it.
Yeah.
But what I've done is I did remove that one, and I left a couple of treats behind
Oh,
so that they
good.
would
That's smart.
associate with the removal, um, to have good things about it, not got
Yeah.
feelings about it.
Yeah.
And eventually I fed them away from there, from that spot. But yeah, lessons learned here, and very interesting dynamics when it comes to crows that have perished and these funerals.
Yeah, it is. And it's complicated because they are such smart animals that it is complicated. And we have to honor that in the way that we're dealing with them, interacting with them. And so what your learning curve was it's going to help people. And just how else can we help the birds in general, in our neighborhood, in our life? I feel like your TikTok is doing that. It's teaching people more about crows and other corvids. But what other things can we do to support the birds in our life?
Definitely. When I talk, a lot of the things that I publish about the crows apply to all wildlife,
Yeah,
bird wise. I think the things that we need to do the most are perhaps plant a lot of hedges. Those
Oh,
are
yes.
great to protect the little birdies, but also the medium birdies from, storms, winds. They provide shelter. They provide space for nesting as well. They provide cover, shade in the summer. So they have a lot of advantages. Food, there's some that also provide food to the birds. So planting quite a lot of hedges, if you've got the possibility to do that would be a really good way of increasing the bird population in your area.
Yeah.
And then offering treats that are balanced, so a mix of seeds for generally most birds will take them, suet pellets if there's any. We tend to use them quite a lot here in the UK, particularly in the winter time. And most birds will prefer those. And obviously for the crows, peanuts, nuts. Most birds will take nuts as well. That's walnuts, hazelnuts. Those seem to be the preferred. Cashew nuts as well.
Oh.
And then, anything like peas or corn. They will also take that. For the crows in particular, they will take anything that's meaty because they like meat. They do. And eggs as well. Even the small birds will eat some eggs, the yellow bit. So all of these foods are quite good for them, but they need to be given as a complement rather than the whole thing, mostly because you don't want the birds to just eat that. You want the birds to have a diversified diet. If they just eat seeds, that's not very good for them. They won't, contrary to popular belief, they won't become dependent on you at all.
Okay.
Birds are very clever, and corvids in particular are super smart, as we had the opportunity to talk about. They will have more than one place to go for food because they know that every place or every resource is temporary. They know that at some point, one way or another, a resource will not work or will disappear. And they will have other backup resources always. So you won't create dependency on a bird. Birds won't be dependent on you if you feed them. In fact, if you're supplementing their diet, it's actually quite a good thing.
Yeah. And then you have a TikTok video where you're making your own suet cakes. And so people need to go and see that because I hadn't even thought about making them myself. And now I'm determined to do it in the next week because I feel like it's fresher, right?
Yeah. And you can use any fat. So, for example, if you fry food, just store that fat. Don't throw it away. Just store it because you can actually use it to produce that suet. And what you need to do is then just boil that fat with all of the different ingredients that you have in the cupboard. It doesn't even matter what it is. Any flours that you're not using or anything that's been, for example, past the best before date, or you can add like oats, wheat flour, oat flour, any type. I use you've got the recipe on TikTok, but I use a lot of different grains because birds will feed on grain. That's part of their natural diet. In particular, the crows, that's part of their natural diet as well, especially if they live in the countryside. Not so much in urban areas. In urban areas, they just tend to eat junk food.
Whatever.
But in the countryside, they tend to eat quite a lot of grain. They tend to eat carrion as well. And so obviously these are things that we can replicate at home with what we have. And suet, again, is fatty, so it's perfect for the winter.
Super fatty. It is. Is there anything that is poisonous to them or that you've noticed they don't like to eat?
So things that are poisonous, yes. You have avocado, which is extremely poisonous to them.
Okay.
But to them and to every bird, any bird that eats a little tiny bit of avocado will not have a great chance of survival.
Oh my gosh.
And that's because avocado has a substance in its composition that is quite toxic. Not for mammals though.
Yeah.
So for us, it's not dangerous, but for the birds, it will be. Other things that we shouldn't be giving birds is any high sugary or highly
Yeah.
processed
Makes
salty
sense.
foods. That's really bad because they're only tiny compared to us, and our foods have
Yeah.
quite a lot of salt in them or
Mm-hmm.
sugar. Because they're made for us, we are a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are not recommended. Other things as well, for example, chocolate, no, terrible. It's
Oh,
also a bit like avocado. It's not good for them at all. It's quite
yeah.
toxic. So I think from the top of my head, those will be the main ones to avoid. I don't think I'm forgetting any, but these
Uh,
three are key. So
that's
stay
those.
away
They
from,
seem key.
yeah, so
Avocado,
that's
chocolate,
it.
and yeah.
Highly processed
What have
foods,
I?
salty
Oh,
and
oh, highly
sugary.
processed. Well, and it's interesting because when I was first doing it, I would throw out cereal for them and they didn't touch it. And I thought, what are we eating? So I stopped buying that cereal. I'm like, it must be garbage if they're not eating it too. So,
They will
they're
eat though.
telling us.
They like Cheerios, I have to say.
I know they
They like
do.
Cheerios. Cheerios are good for them, and I do offer Cheerios to the ones I've got in captivity at the moment who are under my
Yeah.
care. So they do like that as a treat, obviously not as a staple food. Um,
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one of the things that I also give to all the crows is cat food, kibble.
Oh, what a good
And
idea.
and that's pretty good because it doesn't freeze, for example. It lasts a long time. Remember,
Yeah.
these guys cache food. What that means is they
Yeah.
hide food for a better day, for a day where they wouldn't be able to find resource. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they also know which food is perishable. And is
Gosh.
about to go bad, so they will tend to eat those first, and then they
Wow.
will go to the other ones later. Yeah, there's research about this. It's fascinating.
Jeez.
So cat food is great because it's easy to take away. It will last a long time in storage, and it's inexpensive, and it has quite a lot of nutrients for them as well. So that's
Yeah.
another alternative to either peanuts or nuts.
Oh, that's such a great idea. And also, I have a very finicky cat. And so we will have to try all different kibbles with him, the little hard food. And now I know I've been saving it in our cupboard. And I'm like, why was I saving this? Because I just couldn't throw it out after I paid for it. Well, now I know why. Because I can feed my crow friends that, because it's protein rich. It
Yeah.
has some grain. Yeah.
Yeah, they will love it. And in the summertime, you can even wet that food and offer them. And what will happen is because the food is wet, they get some hydration out of it as well. So
What
just
about
advantages.
water sources? In the wintertime, is there anything we should be doing for their water sources?
Always. So if you are in an area where the water sources are prone to freeze over, then
Yeah.
break the ice. Or if it
Okay.
completely freezes, like I've had mine in recent days,
Yeah.
just tip it over and top it up with some warmer water so that they have always
Smart.
fresh water available to them. They can eat the
Ah,
snow, don't get me wrong. They will still get
yeah.
their water, but it's a lot better to drink than to
Mm-hmm.
eat freezing snow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I always
Makes
have
sense.
water available for them in liquid form.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much for all your sharing all your knowledge. I'm going to bother you to write the book and then you'll be back on to make the book announcement because I think that it would be a smash hit. You have such a reverence, such a respect, and such a knowledge for these amazing creatures.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure
Yeah.
to share that love for the crows with you and everybody else.
I think we probably made some new crow lovers out there because they may even be some of those people that are like, crows make me nervous. Well, now they can't say that again. They're going to look at them differently. So find her on the Corvid Corner on TikTok, and I'll have the link in the show notes. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. If you like the content, stories, and information, I'd be grateful if you could like and review us on your favorite streaming service. It will help others find us as well. Huge gratitude for my art director and audio engineer. If you're in need of those services, please find their links in the show notes. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious and love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.